Welcome to Tiptop Tidbits, the channel where timeless ideas meet modern dilemmas. Today we explore the haunting yet strangely liberating philosophy of Albert Camus and how his concept of the absurd offers not despair, but direction. Camus was a French-Algerian philosopher and writer whose insights feel more relevant today than ever. He asked a question that echoes through the digital noise of our era. If life has no inherent meaning, how should we live? It's a question not just of philosophy, but of survival. In a world of constant stimulation, anxiety, and fractured identities, Camus invites us to stop running from the silence and to confront it instead. The absurd, as he defined it, is not the chaos of the universe, but the collision between our desperate need for clarity and the universe's refusal to provide it. But here's the twist. Camus didn't see this as the end. He saw it as a beginning, a chance to live more fully, more freely, and more honestly. Psychology today echoes many of his insights. Therapies like CBT, ACT, and mindfulness help us accept what we cannot control and focus instead on how we choose to respond. Camus would have approved. He believed that liberation starts when we stop pretending there's a script and start writing our own. In this episode, we'll break down Camus's vision of the absurd, explore how his life shaped his thought, and show how modern psychology walks hand in hand with his ideas. From existential tension to inner clarity, we'll look at what it really means to imagine Sisyphus happy. This isn't just theory, it's survival wisdom for anyone navigating the chaos of modern life. So stay with us to the end and discover how the absurd might just be the key to peace, purpose, and power. Camus' origins and the seeds of absurdism. To understand Camus' philosophy, we need to understand the world he came from. Born in French Algeria in 1913, Camus grew up in poverty, surrounded by harsh landscapes and harsh realities. The sunlit cruelty of North Africa stayed with him, not just as a setting for his novels, but as a metaphor for life itself. Beautiful, blinding, and indifferent. Camus came of age during the rise of fascism and the horrors of World War II. He saw firsthand how ideologies could destroy lives and how people clung to meaning even in the face of despair. Unlike other existentialists of his time, like Sartre or Heidegger, Camus refused to anchor life in grand abstractions or political systems. For him, such beliefs were often just elegant ways of avoiding the truth. The truth, in Camus' eyes, was this: life is fundamentally absurd, not because it's chaotic, but because it is silent. We ask for answers. The universe gives us nothing. The result? Tension, conflict, a fracture in the soul. But instead of collapsing under that weight, Camus proposed something radical: revolt. A personal rebellion, not against others, but against nihilism, against the temptation to give up. His most famous metaphor is found in the Myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, represents all of us. And yet Camus urges us to imagine Sisyphus happy, because the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. Camus believed in living with eyes wide open. He didn't want illusions. He didn't need cosmic purpose. What mattered was clarity, courage, and the daily decision to keep going. This mindset is echoed in modern psychology's call for authenticity, self-awareness, and value-based action. We don't control the universe, but we do control how we meet it. Camus' life, shaped by war, poverty, and loss, wasn't easy. But his thought wasn't about comfort. It was about resilience without illusion. And in an age full of noise, perhaps that's exactly what we need. The clash that defines us. At the heart of Camus's thought lies a striking idea: the absurd. It's not randomness, it's not chaos. It's the tension between two deep truths: our desperate longing for purpose and the universe's silent indifference. Imagine looking out across a vast sea begging for a sign, only to receive none. That's the absurd in action. It's not that life is meaningless, it's that it doesn't hand us a meaning, no matter how hard we plead. And here's the problem. Most people run from this realization. We hide in ideologies, beliefs, routines, distractions, anything to avoid the silence. Others fall into nihilism, deciding that if life has no inherent meaning, then nothing matters at all. Camus saw both as forms of philosophical suicide. One lies to itself, the other gives up entirely. But there's a third path, one that Camus championed. Face the absurd with clear eyes. Accept it. Don't try to fix it or explain it away. Instead, live through it. He believed that once we stop begging the universe for answers, we finally become free to write our own. Life remains unpredictable, often brutal. But that doesn't mean we can't find beauty, intimacy, and vitality in the very act of living. This resonates powerfully with today's psychological approaches. Existential humanistic therapy, for example, invites us to embrace death, isolation, and the limits of life, not as tragedies but as truths that deepen our engagement with the world. Thinkers like Rollo May and Irvin Yalom echo Camus' call to stand bravely in uncertainty and choose meaning anyway. Mental wellness, then, isn't about achieving perfect peace. It's about learning to exist with intention, about being alive in spite of it all. Yes, accepting the absurd takes courage. It might shatter your old beliefs. It might demand that you become your own source of meaning. But the reward? A kind of liberation that's as raw as it is real. A way of living that values presence over promises. As we'll see next, modern psychology doesn't just tolerate this philosophy, it often reflects it. When psychology meets philosophy. You don't have to be a philosopher to wrestle with absurdity. Most of us feel it in the quiet hours. And here, modern psychology has much to say. Take cognitive dissonance, the discomfort we feel when our actions and beliefs are at odds. Psychologist Leon Festinger described how our minds scramble to resolve these inner contradictions. Camus would nod in recognition. He saw this very tension at the heart of our desire for meaning in a world that doesn't provide it. We often reach for illusions to soothe ourselves. But Camus suggests something harder and more honest. Hold the contradiction, sit in it, learn from it. Therapeutic practices like mindfulness, acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, and existential therapy all follow this thread. They don't erase discomfort, they teach us how to live with it. Like Camus, these approaches reject the fantasy of total control. Instead, they ask, can you act meaningfully even in the face of uncertainty? Can you stay present even when you're afraid? Where Viktor Frankl emphasized our ability to find meaning, Camus believed we must create it, moment by moment, choice by choice. And this is more than philosophy. It's a roadmap for living. When we accept that life might never explain itself, we begin to craft our own definitions of purpose. Not because someone told us to, but because we choose to show up anyway. In a world of algorithmic perfection, curated realities, and false certainties, this kind of clarity is rare and radical. Camus invites us not to escape, but to engage. Not to fix life, but to feel it. Coming up, we'll explore what this looks like in practice, and why pushing the boulder might be the most powerful thing you ever do. Revolt as a daily psychology. In the Myth of Sisyphus, Camus offers a now iconic image, a man condemned to endlessly push a boulder uphill, knowing it will roll back down each time. At first glance, it seems like pure torment. But Camus flips the script with a bold statement: one must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because the struggle itself, he says, can be a source of meaning. This is Camus' idea of revolt. Not a violent rebellion or political cause, but a mental stance, one of defiance against the absurdity of life. It's the refusal to surrender to despair. It's a conscious act of saying, I see the void, and I choose to live anyway. Psychologically, revolt is not far from what we call resilience. But Camus's version is deeper. It's not just about recovering from hardship. It's about staring directly at life's lack of guarantees and pressing forward anyway. This kind of rebellion is echoed in modern therapeutic ideas. Techniques like post-traumatic growth show us that people can become stronger, more intentional, even grateful, after facing life's worst moments. Why? Because those who suffer deeply often see life more clearly. Revolt also has an ethical layer. Camus argued that in a world without objective moral rules, we must choose our values. Morality, then, isn't a divine script. It's a human act of meaning-making, a personal rebellion against meaninglessness. And here's the twist. Revolt isn't a one-time awakening. It's a lifestyle. Just like Sisyphus, we don't roll the boulder once. We roll it every single day. To revolt is to remember why we're still pushing, even when it's easier to stop. So when your days feel repetitive, when your work feels meaningless, when you're exhausted by the absurdity of it all, remember Camus. The very act of choosing to keep going, with your eyes wide open, is the revolt. Camus in the everyday. Camus may have written in essays and parables, but his philosophy isn't locked in ivory towers. In fact, it's most powerful in the ordinary moments of life. 1. Repetition with awareness. Our lives are filled with repetition, laundry, commuting, replying to emails. Camus reminds us that, like Sisyphus, we can approach these routines consciously. Mindfulness turns the mundane into something meaningful. It's not the task, it's how we meet it. 2. Defying cynicism at work. So many people feel their jobs lack purpose. But Camus shows us that excellence doesn't require cosmic validation. Doing something well, just because it's your choice, is revolt in action. Even the smallest tasks can be acts of defiance against indifference. 3. Lightness. Within absurdity. The absurd can feel heavy, but Camus had humor too. Recognizing the irony of life doesn't have to crush us. Sometimes it frees us. Laughing at the system, the struggle, even ourselves, is part of what makes us human. 4. Choosing your values. Camus doesn't hand us a rulebook. He challenges us to write our own. What do you stand for when no higher power is watching? What matters to you because you decided it matters? 5. Living with uncertainty. Modern life promises control, but rarely delivers it. Camus invites us to stop chasing safety and embrace unpredictability. This doesn't mean giving up. It means living more honestly. Psychology backs this too. Resilience grows not from comfort, but from adapting to change. Camus doesn't demand we change the world. He challenges us to change how we live in it, not with grand gestures, but with small daily choices made in full awareness of the absurd. In the next section, we'll explore how creativity, connection, and conscious action can emerge from the void, and why that might be the most hopeful truth of all. Creating meaning from the void. Camus wasn't just a philosopher, he was a storyteller, a novelist, playwright, essayist. His art wasn't separate from his philosophy, it was his philosophy. And at the heart of both was a belief that when we accept life's absurdity, we unlock a powerful form of creative freedom. If nothing is handed to us, then everything is open to us. Creativity becomes not just a hobby, but a revolt. Whether it's painting, writing, composing, or cooking, creative acts transform anxiety into beauty. They channel inner chaos into outward expression. As Camus might put it, we don't silence the absurd, we answer it with art. Psychologists agree. Creative engagement boosts mental flexibility, resilience, and emotional health. The act of creating helps us process ambiguity and find meaning where none is guaranteed. But Camus didn't stop at personal expression. He believed in connection. In The Rebel, he argues that facing a shared absurdity can unite us. We're all alone in the universe, but we're alone together. That knowledge breeds empathy. Modern psychology backs this up. Studies show that social connection is crucial for mental well-being. Support groups, friendships, and communities provide not just comfort, but meaning. In facing our collective uncertainty, we discover collective strength. Ironically, it's in accepting our isolation that we often find our deepest bonds. And what about purpose? If nothing is dictated from above, how do we choose what matters? Camus says, we create it, not once, but over and over. Purpose is a craft, not a commandment. Whether it's raising children, fighting injustice, building a business, or planting a garden, our chosen actions, done consciously, become our meaning. This aligns with what psychologists call values-based living. When we act in alignment with our core values, we feel more whole, more alive. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose experience greater well-being, less stress, and even longer lives. Camus wouldn't argue with that, but he would remind us, purpose must never become another illusion. It must stay grounded in honesty and choice. In short, the absurd doesn't steal our meaning. It forces us to build it with our own hands. And in doing so, we craft something far more authentic than any prefabricated belief could offer. Final thoughts, dancing with the absurd. So here we are, at the end of Camus's path, but not at a conclusion, because that's the point. Camus doesn't give us answers. He gives us the courage to keep asking. The absurd isn't something to escape, it's something to embrace. And within that embrace, something miraculous happens. Clarity. Not the clarity of control or certainty, but the clarity of presence, purpose, and participation. Modern psychology calls this radical acceptance, the idea that peace doesn't come from fixing the world, but from engaging with it exactly as it is. Camus understood this long before therapists gave it a name. In a world obsessed with closure, Camus teaches us how to stay open, to live in the question, to make peace with the unknown. So what now? Maybe it's as simple as this. Wash the dishes like it matters. Hold your loved ones like it's the last time. Write the poem you've been postponing. Push your boulder with a smile. Camus' message isn't morbid. It's luminous. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me, there lay an invincible summer. That's the absurd, and that's the power of choosing to live, not despite it, but because of it. Thank you for watching Tiptop Tidbits. If this resonated with you, consider sharing it, subscribing, and continuing the conversation below. We don't promise answers, but we promise a space for questions that matter.